You're almost unique in as much as, and certainly for the era that I've known the Flyers, in that you're somebody who came up through the ranks, you joined the Flyers, and then you stayed with the Flyers for your whole career. What was it, 25 years?
It'd be round about that time, yeah. I'm not arguing with you there.
So yes, you're with the Flyers for all that time, but there's a difference between kind of hanging about because you've kind of reached your level. I suspect you were getting offers from other clubs during that time.
I wouldn't say I was inundated with offers from other clubs, but kind of just circumstances for myself, and just being around the club just led to me to be there this whole time.
So you came, like I said at the start there, so you came up through the ranks. If we go back through the stats, the first we see is you're playing with the Flames, the Fife Flames, at the time that you joined the Flyers.
Yeah, so that was the under-16 team at that time, and from there that was the first year. From the Flames I played with the Flyers the first game, and I remember that being in Limecombe Road in Ayr, which is no longer an ice rink anymore, and I believe on the other side was Frank Morris. He was playing for, I think it was Ayr Bruins at that time.
Yeah. Wow. So what was that like, taking that jump, especially being an under-16, taking that jump into the Flyers team?
Well, you'd been training with them, and again, I was just a bit part guy. They brought me up. The coach at that time was Rob Petrie, and it was towards the end of the season, and I was just really filling a spot on the bench. I wasn't playing. It wasn't like I was playing like everybody else. You had to find your way into it. But it was a massive jump again, as it always is, just speeding, going against men. Now,
you're obviously not Canadian. You're a local lad, and whereas it's natural for Canadians to put on a pair of ice skates as soon as they're out the womb, it's not necessarily the case in Scotland. So what got you into ice hockey?
Well, my parents and my brother. So we just lived not far from here. We lived around here. My mum and dad came to the hockey, so they'd been coming all the time. So coming to the Flyers was my first insight into it. And then my brother started playing. He's 5 years older than me, and then I just followed in from there. I mean, everybody from round about here, the ice rink was a focal point for them. So if you went up skating, you were playing. It wasn't like we didn't have loads of people coming from all over Fife at that point. It was kind of a Kirkcaldy thing.
Yeah. Played with your brother. He went and played for Cardiff for a bit.
He went down young to Cardiff. I think he was only probably 21.
Yeah.
He had a couple of years down there, and yeah, back up here and played with him for probably 20 years as well now. Yeah,
it was almost like he saw the light and he came back and.
Sort of like, yes, I wouldn't say maybe we'd put it like that, but maybe.
Yeah. When you were joining the Flyers, who were the local guys that you kind of sort of looked up to and thought, oh, this is amazing getting to play with these ones?
Well, there was a lot. Again, Fife was a real spawning ground for good players, good British guys that went and played all other places. I mean, it was Gordon. He was like getting on that time, but he was still the main focal point of the team, Gordon Latto. Then we had Haig brothers and Les Milley and Dean Edmiston, Ian Robertson, Davy Smith, all guys that went on to make good careers. They were a few years older than me, but all guys that went on to make a professional career in hockey.
You were in the team at the time when of the BNL and playing with imports, but when you could still make a sort of a position for yourself, make a niche for yourself. Was it 6 or 7 guys? Yeah,
well, again, from the start, I think when I first started, it was 3, and they called it a reclassified British guy, so basically 4. Yeah. And it started to creep up over the whole period of my career. But yes, the British guys were needed, and it let you grow into, because you were there and playing, it let you grow into being a hockey player. You could make mistakes and learn from it, whereas as I see it now, there's not much room for mistakes out there now, so it's a much trickier proposal we're getting in the team now.
The guys that were coming in, the imports that were coming in, out of the ones that you played with, who are the ones that kind of sort of stand out?
There's lots of those guys. obviously the names that stick in people's head would be Mark and Doug Smale. Obviously he was like, when he came across here straight for the NHL, they were different characters, but I've played with so many good players, and you realise how difficult it must be over in Canada when you see guys who I've played with and against. I mean, Todd and Kuznak and Russell Monteith. I could go on, and guys that you played against and with, and you're like, oh my goodness, that's a high calibre player, and they're not touching it across there. So I was lucky enough. I mean, I played with Doug and I played with Laurie Bushman for a bit, who was an older guy, but some of the older people have realised the calibre he was at. I was really lucky.
So within the team, given that it was predominantly Scottish guys,
yeah,
what was the view of the team to these guys coming in? Was it we can kind of sort of learn off them, or was it okay, you're coming to help us, but this is our team?
I think it would be a bit of both. In those days, it was very much just a weekend league, and the gulf between a lot of the imports and British guys was really pretty big. So it was in their best interest to bring us along for their careers as well. And we did learn a lot getting to play with those guys. But it was, I mean, the British guys were a necessity in those days. Else you wouldn't have had the team. You just said it was a weekend league, so you guys all had day jobs. Yeah.
And you were doing these amazing journeys because you were still playing at places like Guildford and Bracknell and all of that. I mean, how did you survive that?
That
basically?
was there was a few years there where we were in London or London area. It seemed like every second weekend. Yeah. Which was you're younger there, so it's you can get by. But it was difficult. There was a lot of times where you'd come back. Starting work time, 7 o'clock in the morning, go home, get changed, and go out, and that was the norm for a few years. Like I said, when we had those Basingstokes, when we had Peterboroughs, when we had Milton Keynes, we were in London nearly every weekend. It was really a battle, but I mean, you just got used to that as well. That was just your life that you had. So looking back at it now, I couldn't think how that was possible, but we managed.
It just defies belief, and maybe that's looking back as a 50-year-old now.
Yes, that does. I'm the same. Don't worry, I'm the same. I look back and think, how do you do that now? But when you're young, it's not so bad when you're young.
Yeah. What was it like being in this building back when you started?
Well, it's not changed greatly. I mean, there's been obviously the glass went up now. It was netting before. It was netting for a long time. Yeah. But it was always, I mean, it would get busy, depending on, as it's always, how well you were doing and who you were playing. There was a lot of times where this place was packed out, and in big games against big teams, and it was a good place to play. Like you say, if you weren't doing so well, it maybe wasn't the best place. People let you know, which is fair enough. But when we were going, and we had a few years, and it was a great place to play.
Your dressing room at the time was what's now the away dressing room. Yeah. Which is quite cramped, really.
It is. I bet it is. I mean, it was just what we knew. It was been the dressing room forever. It was the dressing room that I knew forever. And again, we kind of had our core. It wasn't like we were full with 22 guys in the room. We were probably 3 lines at the most. We were 2 goalies. We didn't really carry any extra space, so it wasn't too cramped. But I could, having been in the new dressing room now, it's a big change. Those guys are well looked after. Yeah,
definitely. Over your time, greatest achievements.
Well, there were a few. I mean, we had our ups and downs. There was times when I first broke in that we were just muddling along. We weren't winning anything, and then I remember being a young guy and beating Edinburgh in the Scottish Cup here in a packed place. I think that was probably Mark and Doug and Ryan Kumu's year, again Murrayfield had a very good team, and we won that game, and that was kind of the start of that year where we had a run. We came second in the league, we got to the Wembley Championships. It was the start of that. Then we went into the doldrums again, and we had a bit of a battle there, but then it changed to BNL and we had a purple patch, and just during those times was great, you know. Being around, the team was full of guys that I'd grown up with. It wasn't like they were friends as well. They weren't just like teammates. They were guys that I've been known and spending a lot of time with them and winning championships with them. It wasn't any better feeling.
Yeah. And were there any personal achievements? I mean, obviously that's kind of sort of team ones, but were there any kind of personal highlights?
There was. I mean, I won in those days. It was back in the Heineken era. There was Young Player of the Month awards where you won a Stetson and a tankard. So I won a couple of them. There was that was the ones that Tony Hand and Robo had been across the Canada. They won it for the year. But that was good individual achievements. I was on some British teams of the year, and I played through the GB setup all the way up to senior, so almost senior. So yeah, I was lucky.
You're on one of the All-Star teams as well, I think, around about the turn of the century.
I think that might have been the year previous in Hull. We were down there. Again, that's a nice thing. Individual things are nice, but I'd much rather the team things. But like I say, individual things are nice to look back on. In the end of it, it's nice to have those things. But I suppose there was a lot of other things that came with it. But I was just happy with what I did.
Yeah. You were sponsored by Nike at one point?
Yeah, that's right.
How did that come about?
I think they were trying to break into hockey. We've obviously done it in America, and they were doing it over here. And there was a handful of guys who, up and down the country, who were picked. I was fortunate to be one of them. I got to wear those lovely white skates, which didn't attract any attention at all. But it was good as well. I mean, it was just nice to be recognised. But again, it's in hindsight you look back and you think at the time it's just something that comes along. But in hindsight, as you get older, you realise those things are good to have.
Yeah, definitely. I can just imagine what was getting said to you wearing white ice skates.
Yes. Well, that's true. I can't really mention that just right now, but yeah, it wasn't easy.
Yeah. We know that the ice hockey players are a different breed, and I always remember Kyle Horn, I said probably only about 8 or 9 years ago, going back onto the ice. I think he got hit in the eye with the puck, and went back onto the ice after getting stitched up, and his eyes kind of sort of out to here. And the only reason that he stopped playing that night was because somebody blindsided him up his left hand side, and he didn't see them coming until he got charged into the boards. You had incidents like that as well. Did you not play with a broken jaw at one point?
I did. It was Todd. Thanks for that, Todd.
Oh, was it?
That was the playoff final. We had a 5-game series against Basingstoke, and the first game was up here on Saturday night, and Todd was clearing the puck, and I put my head in the wrong place and it hit me in the jaw. I didn't know it was broken.
Yeah.
Again, we were on the bus away down to Basingstoke the next day, the Sunday night, and played in that game, and just felt there wasn't something right. Just, you had bumps before, of course, x-rayed, and that's your jaw broken in 2 places. But what you don't know at that time, I mean, that was fine. You just, the way you went, you had a sore jaw. Until somebody tells you your jaw's broken, then you're like, oh, I've got a broken jaw. But luckily, we had one. Well, we were up 2-0 in the series at that time. We won it back in here on the Friday night, and I played with a broken jaw. I don't know how effective I was, because you know it in your head, you've got a broken jaw, but I was still there, and we won, so it couldn't have been all bad.
Yeah. Team moved from the BNL into the SNL, and you stick with them.
Yeah, again, that was coming towards the end. There was no, I worked, I had a reasonably good job. There was no way I was moving away and giving up that. It was what it was. It was a real step down, but it it was just something that happened with the club. There was reorganisation with the leagues, so it was probably a lower point, but it gave a load of young guys chances to come through and play in front of reasonable crowds. Again, even at that point, when you get a rivalry going and you're playing, people come in and see. Was the hockey the greatest? Probably not. But when you've got a rivalry and people want to come and see it, then we did that against teams, and like I say, it wasn't the greatest, but there was still people coming in, and the club was still here, so that was the main thing.
Yeah, and depending on when people started coming to see the Flyers, they might not realise that you actually played in the Elite League for, I think it was 4 or 5 games?
I did, yes. I spoke to Todd, and then you think, oh, that's a great idea and it'll be straightforward, but your body's older and everything's moved on, and I just wasn't at that level. Like, that was a professional level again. I was still working and I'd been away for too long, so it sounded like a good idea, and your head says that'll be a great idea until you find out the reality of it, and you're like, maybe not so much. So and then that kind of got out of the system. There's people like you think, can I do that, until you find out, no, you can't anymore. Yeah. That's the, like, you know yourself there, you always think a bridge too far for an old man.
And you moved into coaching. You coached the Kestrels for quite a few years.
Yeah, my son he played, so again you're standing around the rink, and it's, when you're on with young kids, the more the merrier for shuffling pucks around, so you get involved in that. And then before you know it, you're coaching a team, and you're again with work, and you're away, and it's a busy time. And then we moved on to the Kestrels, and then eating that league was that was just too much for my work. And like, as you get older, you've got other priorities. I work it works out every second weekend, and then other weekends I'd maybe be in Aberdeen, or so. I was like, at that point, I'd done my bit, and it was just enough. Yeah.
Do you miss it?
I still follow it. Do I actually miss it? I don't seem to have the time to miss it. I don't know how. Yeah. I did that. You find the time, but I mean, I still like coming up. I still come up and watch Kestrels now and again. I've seen the Flyers a couple of times, but it's time just runs away, and like I don't say I had time to do that before, but like I say, I missed the plane, came back, found out that I didn't miss it anymore. Yeah. But I always follow it. It's not like I've cut myself off. It's just that other things come up.
And just finally, we are retiring your number this weekend. When you got that call, what were the thoughts that went through your head?
Again, people have spoken about that for a long time. People that catch me and they speak, and that's for other people to decide that. On a personal note, there couldn't be anything higher for me. That would maybe be the only thing that I really wanted. As you said, I spent my whole career here. Enjoyed my time, won stuff with the club, played with a lot of great guys, and just with the history of the club, to have my jersey hanging up there now is it's just something that I'm really looking forward to.